called him the second best receiver in football
Them
the other
fighting
day.
words.
Yeah, that may be a little much. I don't even know if he's the second best receiver on the Packers right now.
Yeah.
But whether he is specifically accurate or whether or not he's just trying to show some praise and send it Dobbs' way, I think the statement is Romeo Dobbs is having a very strong training camp. And, I said this in a couple of articles. Romeo Dobbs may not be the fastest receiver.
Mm-hmm.
He may not be the biggest receiver, but he may be the most consistent and best all-around receiver on the Packers roster, and he just gets the job done and does it well. The chemistry he has with Jordan Love has been outstanding, and I just am really pleased with what I've seen from Romeo Dobbs so far.
And with Romeo Dobbs, it's interesting because I watch him and I think, man, he seems like a smaller James Jones. But then James Jones is on the pregame shows before on game days here in Wisconsin. He's on the flagship network here. And he talks about how he sees so much Greg Jennings in Romeo Dobbs. And I think that's kind of a good mix where you kind of see both, where the guy is just, he's a gritty receiver. He's just a hard-working receiver. Matt LaFleur and a lot of his teammates just glow over Romeo Dobbs. And it seems like he's taken another step at training camp. The guy still had 8 touchdowns last year, and he's pretty damn good in the red zone for the Packers offense. But another guy that we're hearing that's turning heads quite a bit is fellow wide receiver Grant Dubose, who was on the practice squad all last season. He didn't make it onto the 53, not even as a practice squad call-up last year. But he seems like a guy who's going to make the job of Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur a little bit harder. That receiver room just seems absolutely stacked. Grant Dubose just seems to be making a play every single day at camp so far.
Yeah, and that's good to see. And look, part of the problem with Grant Dubose, he was injured in training camp last year. He never really had an adequate chance to show what he could do, and so they were able to cut him, stash him on the practice squad, and now the former 7th-round pick comes back for year 2, and he is making an impression, and that is really important and really good to see. So, look, we know there's 5 receivers who, if they're healthy, they're certainly going to make the roster. Do they keep 6? Do they possibly keep 7? Is Dubose going to battle Malik Heath for that 6th spot? I mean, how does this all play out? A lot of questions, a lot of things still to be answered, but it's good to see Grant Dubose getting off to a solid start in training camp.
Grant Dubose is interesting, where Bo Melton, we loved what he did last year. I don't know if Bo Melton's a lock right away out of camp. I don't, where he played so well down the stretch last year for the Packers. But I really think the only locks at receiver are Dobbs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks, and Jane Reed. Outside of that, it's a hell of a competition. And preseason, it's going to be interesting to see what all these guys do. But more so on the defensive side of the ball, I don't want to ignore that side as well, Gil. It sounds like Rashawn Gary's continuing to make everyone look foolish at camp. It just sounds like he's making everyone look small and weak. Eric Stokes has shown improvement from what we've heard. He's really, really playing well in the new defensive system. And then the battle for the opposite starting safety job of Xavier McKinney, Anthony Johnson Jr., second-year, 7th-round pick. He's playing well. Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, they've showed flashes, and they just show like they get it, where that just seems like it's been a really healthy competition at safety. And it just seems like there's so much depth on this Packer team, and Brian Gutekunst has built a pretty good squad where I feel like we're marching towards cutting some pretty darn good players come the end of August rather than keeping a few bad players later this summer.
Yeah, and then obviously, Kitan Oladipo just returned to practice a couple of days ago, and, you feel for him because the timing of the injury, he's behind schedule as far as, look, you could study all you want in the classroom, you could memorize the playbook, but unless you're out there on the field and doing it, it is difficult to really get comfortable and make it automatic where you're not thinking out there, you're just reacting. And that's what you need your players to be able to do. So Oladipo a little behind the 8 ball before he even gets a chance to take the field. But yeah, a lot of good play at safety, and that realistically is a good problem for Matt LaFleur and the Packers coaching staff.
I'm going to be very excited to see preseason how that rotation is. I don't know if we're going to see the starters too much. A guy like an Xavier McKinney, I can't imagine is going to play much in the preseason, but it's going to be plenty of opportunities for those other guys. So obviously we're talking about the standouts, Gil, but we also got to look at the other side. We got to talk about the training camp struggles. So far right now, obviously, we touched on the backup quarterback play where Sean Clifford. It seems like he's gotten better this week. It was a really, really rough first week and a half for the backup last year, for the rookie backup last year. And Michael Pratt hasn't really done anything to wow in practice either. Outside of that, Gil, what struggles are you hearing from camp? And I'll share mine as soon as you share yours.
Well, I'll start with Andre Dillard. I mean, he just got dominated. He was first string in the absence of Zach Tom for the first few games of practice, and Rashawn Gary just ran circles around him. Yeah. And now he has not been back with the first string at all. Here is a guy who, the tools are all there, the size, the speed. On paper, he looks like a really good offensive tackle, former first-round draft choice, but he's got to get it done on the field. He couldn't really do it last year, struggled big time. It looks like those struggles are continuing, and he has not run with the first-string guys. Again, even with Zach Tom still not participating in full 11-on-11 drills, that's not a good sign for the guy who they brought in to be the heir apparent at swing tackle.
And it's good that Zach Tom hasn't taken a step back. It seems like he's on track to be the opening day starter at right tackle. But I was going to mention Andre Dillard too, where this guy struggled mightily in Tennessee last year. He did not play well. Just watch the Thursday night game when he played against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Granted, TJ Watt makes a lot of guys look foolish, but Rasheed Walker held his own pretty well against TJ Watt last season as well, for the most part. He didn't struggle nearly as badly as Andre Dillard. And Dillard, you mentioned, he's got the tools to be a really good player in the NFL. He's got that high relative athletic score when he was coming out of Washington State. The Packers clearly liked him. You got to think that, hey, it's a guy who's available. He's struggled a little bit. Maybe we can get him in the lab and maybe we can work with him. I don't know if he's going to make the 53, Gil. I really don't. It just seems like he's climbing uphill right now. It just seems like it's really a problem. And his NFL days may be over if he doesn't turn around soon, because it could be a massive issue. But also, in addition to Andre Dillard, the kicker, Anders Carlson, he had a pretty good camp until Thursday where he missed 3 kicks. Greg Joseph, the veteran, if you look at the numbers, he's only missed 2 kicks. Anders Carlson has missed 6 kicks so far in camp. Greg Joseph, you got to think, kind of has the lead right now, but the preseason games are going to tell a lot more in terms of what the Packers are going to do at kicker.
Yeah, and look, it's sort of a two-sided coin, because before Thursday, he was looking pretty darn good, Anders Carlson.
He was.
But the issue with Carlson, everybody knows he's got the strong leg. It's consistency. And, I talked about this in an article on Cheesehead TV. He adjusted where he puts his plant foot. So hopefully, instead of going wide left, his kicks would go through the uprights instead. Yep. It's not like he didn't, look at the situation and admit he had some things to straighten out and didn't work on them. He did. But if he's going to be inconsistent again, everybody has a bad day now and again, but it can't. Missing 3 out of 6 on Thursday is a red flag for a guy who struggled so much with consistency.
And I'm pretty sure all those kicks were wide left as well, which in that playoff game against the 49ers, there's a wide left kick in the fourth quarter at a critical moment and critical time in the game. And Anders Carlson, he needs this competition. I still think they're not going to cut the cord on Anders Carlson until they absolutely have to. They're not going to make a move at kicker right now. James Turner is no longer with the team anymore. He struggled a lot more than Anders Carlson. Greg Joseph did. The Packers, they said, yep, thanks, but no thanks. Anders Carlson, Greg Joseph, they seem to be the guys competing for that kicking job. It's going to go all the way to the wire, all the way to that final preseason game on August 24th, and all the way till cutdown day. It's going to be you hope that Greg Joseph is doing his job. He's making it very hard, obviously, for Rich Bisaccia, for Matt LaFleur, for Brian Gutekunst on where they want to go at kicker. But it's not looking good for Anders Carlson, and he's got to turn around. He's got to have a good preseason performance, in my opinion, to really solidify that job and still be the Packers kicker moving forward.
Yeah, and remember that Brian Gutekunst did say earlier in the offseason, these are the three we have now, because they did have three kickers at OTAs. They had three kickers the first week of camp. But he said, we'll bring in three more guys if these guys aren't going to work out. So it wouldn't surprise me if there are still issues at the end of training camp after the final preseason game. If they go out and sign somebody else, whether they bring him in on the practice squad or whether they bring him in, to be the starting kicker, you don't just have to beat out the other guy. I think you have to prove you are the guy in order to really cement this job.
Brian Gutekunst, he likes to favor his draft picks. Every GM does. Every GM likes to favor draft picks. Good. But Brian Gutekunst has made sure, he has shown that he's not afraid to cut a guy loose if it's not working. Amari Rodgers is a guy he traded up for. He got cut during his second year as well. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you got to move on when you got to move on. Brian Gutekunst isn't afraid to get the best option in there. So it's a ruthless business, but that's the way it goes. We were talking about, obviously, Zach Tom, though. He's still kind of hurt. He's not fully back. He's not a full go yet, but it seems like he's progressing. Gil, let's talk about some injuries real quick. Injury update from Packers training camp. Obviously, we heard Edgerrin Cooper left practice on Wednesday. Matt LaFleur called it a groin injury. But, hey, Marshawn Lloyd, he's back after having a hip injury that held him out of the first part of camp, and he's running out there with the team right now.
Yeah, and that's good because obviously he had a delayed start to camp, and you had A.J. Dillon looking really good. And now Josh Jacobs out, missed some time as of Thursday. So, again, they're saying it's not serious, but you know what it is with hamstrings and groins, all these muscle injuries. They may not be as serious as a broken bone, but sometimes they'll take longer to heal to fully feel 100%. So we sort of have to keep our eye on Josh Jacobs. And again, that may open up some opportunities for your Emmanuel Wilsons, your Marshawn Lloyds, and your A.J. Dillons, but we'll see. Hopefully Josh Jacobs not going to miss a lot of time.
And like we were talking about with Xavier McKinney, where I don't expect him to play in the preseason. I hope Josh Jacobs doesn't play in the preseason either. You got a good, healthy competition at running back brewing right now in camp and in the preseason. Just give those reps to all those guys because we need to see who's the best of that bunch. And I'm telling you, that soft tissue stuff, Gil. I've run some routes playing pickup football, and I pulled my groin before, and I pulled my quad before. That's not fun. And so if you're dealing with that as an NFL player, yeah, I kind of get it. I'm not an NFL player. I'm far from it. These guys are as tough as nails, but if it's hurting, it's hurting. Another soft tissue injury, Carrington Valentine, he's dealing with a hamstring issue that's kept him out the past couple days. Still no Tucker Kraft. He's still on the player unable to perform list after he tore his pec in the offseason. Sounds like he's getting closer to returning, though. Matt LaFleur said he asks every day if he could practice, but the medical staff just still hasn't given him the green light. Sounds like he's getting closer to a return. Thank goodness it doesn't sound like anything serious. It's just gearing up just in time for family night. And speaking of family night, Gil, it's coming up. It's on Saturday, August 3rd at Lambeau Field. It's sold out. I'm going to try to watch here on television. It's on some random channel here in Wisconsin that I don't know if I can get through my smart TV. I hope I do, or I'll find some illegal stream or something like that, maybe while I'm on the computer at home because I want to watch football that bad. What do you want to watch, or what are you going to be watching for, though, on Family Night, Gil?
For me, Family Night is more about the young guys. How well Jordan Love does on Family Night, I'm not losing any sleep over. I want to see the Sean Cliffords and the Michael Pratts, and I want to see the draft picks from this year out on the field. I want to see the guys who are, have something to prove. Guys who are coming back from injuries, for example. You want to see how they're looking. Kitan Oladipo, for example. Missed Marshawn Lloyd, guys who missed the first week or so of training camp, but are coming back out there. And then, guys like Andre Dillard, who are battling for a roster spot, or Royce Newman. I want to see what they can do out there because their jobs are on the line.
Oh, for sure. It's going to be it's going to be interesting to see that for sure. I want to see, though, when Jordan Love is out there on Family Night, who's going to be that first starting five in front of him? Who's going to be that offensive line? You got to think it sounds like Rasheed Walker's got the left tackle job. Elton Jenkins isn't moving from left guard. Center Josh Myers, who we actually didn't mention, he was out again on Thursday with personal reasons. He's been on and off the practice field. Hopefully everything's okay with him. That just sounds like obviously it's a personal matter, and you hope the best for Josh Myers. You hope he's out there on Saturday night as well. And then right guard, is it going to be Jordan Morgan? Is it going to be Sean Ryan? Is Zach Tom going to be able to be cleared to do 11 on 11 on family night on Saturday at right tackle? That's going to be an interesting thing. And then how much are they going to play with the new kickoff rules? How much special teams are they going to do? Because I want to see we've seen the XFL clips and how exciting it could be. I want to see it at the NFL level. The NFL guys are the best at what they do for a reason. I want to see how that looks on family night, as soon as family night. We're probably going to see it in the preseason, but that's going to be interesting. And there's probably going to be a kicking portion too. Who kicks better under the bright lights of Lambeau Field? Is it going to be Greg Joseph? Is it going to be Anders Carlson? And how do the rookies adapt under the lights too? There's just a lot of things. I'm a football nerd, and I love this stuff. I just want to see who rises to the occasion and who kind of goes into a shell when you're in that kind of setting and away from the practice field.
Yeah, you're ratcheting it up to the next level, and you want to see guys who are going to respond positively to that. And, you talked about the kickoff Hall of Fame game is Thursday night. It's tonight if you're watching this live. And we'll get to see the kickoff rules shown there. Interesting comment, though, from Rich Bisaccia earlier this week, where he said he wouldn't be surprised to see those rules tweaked mid-season this year by the NFL.
Can they do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I would assume a minor tweak they might be able to do, but I don't think they can make major changes to a rule mid-season unless something is really not working out. But the fact that Bisaccia said it kind of perked my ears up a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting, where if there's already grumblings in the NFL league office where, hey, we may want to change this or change that a little bit. I can't remember the last time something major like that or a rule was implemented during the season. Usually they wait until after the season and then they make the changes. Even the horrendous PI being reviewable, that was changed after the season, where it's like, okay, we're done with this. It was a mess, where they still had it during the season.
Right, but what they can do is sort of reduce an emphasis on something, or
true.
We are going to look specifically for this kind of a play and flag it more often. Things like that, or they may say we're not going to call this as often on the kickoff. There are things they can do to sort of tweak it without officially changing the rule. So it'll be interesting to see how it gets enforced for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's that is so obviously more of an emphasis by the referees. I could definitely see that. A rule change, I don't think so. But speaking of, though, the season coming up, the Packers had a pretty cool announcement through the team this year, coming up later this season. Winter warning coming to Lambeau Field in October. They unveiled their new white jersey and white alternate helmet combination for their game versus the Houston Texans on the 20th. They're inviting fans to take part in the winter warning and wear all white. The game is scheduled for noon that day. It's Jordan Love versus CJ Stroud. I hope it gets flexed to a Sunday night football game. That would be really cool. And maybe we get some early snow just for that game outside at Lambeau Field, Gil.
Yeah, early snow would be perfect for a winter warning game, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be ideal. I don't mind the all-white jerseys, but the helmet,
man, it's different. It's different.
Yeah,
but
maybe I'll get used to it.
Yeah, we got to adjust our glasses a little bit, Gil. You know, and then we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay with it.
Well, I think what will be okay, sir, if the lights go out at Lambeau, Packers will be able to see their teammates. We'll say that much. So.
Hey, that's good. Obviously, just keep the game going. Home field advantage for a reason, right, Gil?
That's right. That's right.
Gil, before we wrap up this episode on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this podcast, what articles do you have coming up on Cheesehead TV and the Packers Post?
Well, for the Packers Post, I did take a look at Romeo Doubs and what he's doing, and obviously how well everybody seems to be responding to his training camp. And on Cheesehead TV, took a look at Anders Carlson's struggles as well. And he was looking good up until Thursday's practice. Yeah. So, trying to deal with what discuss what he's been dealing with was on Cheesehead on Thursday.
Anders Carlson, it seems like that was a theme last year too, where he had a really good start to the year, and then he was just missing a kick every single game. And just that consistency, we need to see it. We absolutely need to see it. But obviously, cheeseheadtv.com, thepackerspost.com. If you're on YouTube, you can see the links on the bottom of your screen on the ticker. Gil, you ready for some trivia?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, let's get back to the jersey and helmet talk just real quick. Again, the Packers, they're wearing those white jerseys, white pants, and white helmets in their October 20th home game versus Houston this fall. The Packers last wore white helmets during the 1958 season. Gil, how many members of the 1958 Packers team were later inducted into the Hall of Fame?
The answer is a lot. I don't know.
It is a lot. It is a lot.
And yet that team went 1-10-1.
Yes.
So
that's good. That's good. I didn't even have to mention that, but I'm going to mention it still again in a bit after you guess.
All right. Boy, I am going to say 7.
So you're in the ballpark, but you're not quite there. The answer is 9. 9
Wow.
future Hall of Famers from the 1958 Packers. Crazy to think that, again, like you mentioned, that Packers team won one game that season. Future Hall of Famers who started on that squad included quarterback Bart Starr, tailback Paul Hornung, center Jim Ringo, defensive end Len Ford, who spent most of his career with the Cleveland Browns. So he counts technically for this, but he really kind of doesn't. Linebacker Ray Nitschke and safety Bobby Dillon. Now, offensive linemen Forrest Gregg and Jerry Kramer, they were both backups at the time before earning starting jobs the very next season. And rookie halfback Jim Taylor also was primarily a backup as a rookie on that team. Also on the roster was future hungover Super Bowl I hero wide receiver Max McGee. That was the last year of the Ray McClain coaching era. A man named Vince Lombardi, you may have heard of him, took over as head coach of the Packers following that disastrous 1958 season. So there you go, right there. Starr, Hornung, Ringo, Ford, Nitschke, Dillon, Gregg, Kramer, Taylor, and Super Bowl I hungover hero Max McGee were on that 1958 Packers squad.
Yeah, I mean, hard to believe that a team with that much Hall of Fame talent won one game out of 12. It's unbelievable. But 1 year later, they started the most dominant era in Packers history when Lombardi came in and took the same roster, more or less, and turned them around. So
Vince Lombardi unlocked that team's talent.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. So always good to see how that ended up working out.
Oh yeah. It worked out pretty well, I'd say.
For the green and gold. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We will be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Gil Packers and at TV Packers on to stay up to date on all things Packers or to ask us questions. And don't forget, if you're watching on us live on YouTube or elsewhere, you could make some comments in the comment section. You can also email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com and make sure you subscribe to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. A big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show. Thank you for listening. Till next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.